No tax on tips. Even Trump and Kamala agree. Before we start on this video by the Fat Electrician, I want to clarify that I'm not going deep nitty-gritty into the weeds here. I'm going to be analyzing what he's reacting to, analyzing what he's discussing, and we'll be making my most professional take on the situation. So, without further ado, the Fat Files.
All right, full disclosure, this is just going to turn into unhinged yelling pretty much immediately. Today we're talking about not taxing tips. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, both presidential candidates have come out and said that they no longer want to tax tips. Now, is this blatantly political pandering to get votes because Nevada's a swing state and a ton of them rely on tips for income? Absolutely, okay? But unfortunately, pretty much every tax cut on the books is either pandering directly for votes or pandering to get donations to their campaign so that they can buy more votes. And while that's certainly not ideal, I thought it was cool because this is probably like the only time in my adult life that I can think of where two presidential candidates were on the same page about literally anything. And honestly, it just made sense because you've got Republicans, people on the right side of the aisle that generally speaking are just against taxes, period, of any kind. And then you've got Democrats or people on the left side of the aisle that, you know, they're more pro-taxes, but generally speaking, they want to tax richer people, not necessarily tax lower income people, like generally speaking, the people that are working for tips. And then
So I think a lot of this comes down to a common sense thing, and I honestly don't even want to give anyone in the field a W on this. Because at the end of the day, if we have business practices, strictly from a business standpoint, that require tip culture, even in a buffet setting, even in a... I mean, there's certain things that you tip. You go out to a nice steakhouse, right? I mean, we're talking $100 a plate, right? Smaller portion sizes, right? You're going to go out there and you're going to be spending $500, $700, and that's when you get into flat rate tipping at that point. Because tipping on... Oh, God, what's the word I'm looking for? Because you tip a portion, but when the amount becomes so high, you start resorting to a flat rate model because the proportionality would just get out of control at that point, right? 8% on $30 is different than 8% on $700 at a fine dining steakhouse, right? But then again, you also have reasonably money at that point. You're not really caring. However, I do think this is a common sense thing, just from a business perspective. If you as a business are not paying your employees, right? And this is why I haven't hired an editor. This is why I haven't hired a scriptwriter, right? Because if I cannot pay an employee and I'm like, well, you're just gonna have to work for tips, why should I be hiring them? Oh, but Kip, you'll say there's going to be no one left at that point. We're not going to have jobs that are required. Then pay your employees. That is a strict business standpoint. Once again, we get into the concept of layoffs, of businesses going south, businesses resorting to more and more cost-cutting measures despite making a worse and worse product, right? Because, the whole, was it GM? We're going to streamline our production to have everything have heated seats, and you're going to have to pay a subscription model for heated seats, and it'll help, kick back that cost. Kick back the cost to who? As far as I'm aware, customers, clientele of General Motors are not seeing that kickback, right? And there's been a large controversy when it comes to a subscription model for heated seating. And then you have the entire right to repair thing where we have I don't remember which auto manufacturer it was, but there was an actual ad done by an auto manufacturer that alluded to somebody, oh, well, you wouldn't want your mechanic having this, right? Trying to push proprietary dealerships, proprietary work, and having an ad of somebody cornering... I think it was a lady in the ad. It was alluding to some very bad stuff about to happen to this lady because someone that wasn't the actual company worked on that car without proprietary equipment, stuff like that. So we get into the weeds really, really quick here. I will bury myself in the stance that not taxing tips is common sense, especially when you have economics as just messed up as it is. And I'm not even going to bring it, not even bring it to the political side of things. Federal Reserve, as far as I'm aware, is an independent organization within the federal government, right? I actually don't, no, I'm thinking of the IRS. I'm thinking the IRS is independent. However, someone who worked in finance, I habitually asked both my institution and was really, really tempted to find Jerome Powell's business email and ask, when does this stop? You cannot, month after month, keep raising. Okay, I'm looking at HELOCs. Their prime is getting raised. We are no longer offering prime. It's prime plus at that point. So say prime plus 1.0 because rates keep going up. So once again, let's cut the BS. Let's not talk about the politics in that. That is a common sense thing. Hey, people are struggling right now. What can we do? Maybe not tax tips. Maybe people throw a couple dollars at a waiter, waitress, they throw a couple dollars that way. Sure. Okay. Easy win. And that further incentivizes people to want to work for tips. Absolutely. We should still have businesses that are just like, hey, we're going to actually pay you a decent wage. Okay. We're going to actually pay you. But in the absence of that, you also have tips, which your employer can touch far, far less. And I know there's going to be people that are going to be, they're going to look at this video and they're going to be absolutely feral, to which get bent. Okay. I am allowed to have an opinion, as Fat Electrician is allowed to have an opinion, as you are allowed to have an opinion. Okay. We're all on the same page here. Let's be adults about this.
For me, I was just excited I was going to be allowed to tip somebody that did a good job, knowing that the government wasn't going to step in like fucking Debo and take some of the money.
So y'all don't get nothing?
Hell yeah. Got about $200, huh, Debo?
I got about $200.
Nice.
Because that's absolutely ridiculous. In my mind, at least, a tip is basically a gift to that person, and you're allowed to give away like $17,500 a year to an individual as a gift and not have it taxed. So why the fuck does the government need to tax the $5 gift that I'm giving to the kid that delivered my pizza? So
I have the answer for you, because rich people play by different rules. Jack Dougherty, if I, dear viewer, were to crash a McLaren by being distracted driving and looking at my phone, looking at my chat, right? Would I expect to go to jail? Would I expect some form of harsh repercussions? Would I expect some form of backlash or some sort of accountability? I think we could argue so. We have, what was it? Was it Martha Stewart and the whole tax situation? Was Bernie Madoff as well? I know he's a pretty big one. Enron accounting. Oh my God. Everyone says accounting is boring until you mention, hey, about that Enron accounting, and you watch them snicker. They laugh. Oh my God. Enron accounting. I had a brief overview from one of Simon Whistler's channels. Oh my God, it is the funniest thing ever. How was that legal? Oh, but that's the thing, is we can argue that rich people do play by different rules. If I were to go out or take a big fat dump on my neighbor's driveway, right, and a cop were to see that, right, I'd expect to go to jail, a decent public exposure, a number of things that could happen, right? Now, if we had a, let's say, a celebrity of some kind, right, multi-billion-dollar, or we had Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk took a dump on his neighbor's lawn, right? People are going to be cheering in the streets. They might say, hey, we have to do this. You see how that's different, how notoriety, fame, being in a different tax bracket entirely, just you play by a different set of rules. I think we can argue this with some objectivity. Sure, absolutely. If you go over a certain threshold of, yeah, that's pretty bad, Captain. You get a little Epstein. The joke the past couple months at this point has just been, so when does Diddy get Epstein? But once again, even then, P. Diddy gets to play by certain rules as his position allows him to. Meanwhile, someone like, some smaller creator in the sphere, some smaller musician, smaller artist, they're going to play by different rules, right? And they're going to get held accountable. So that starts getting into legal. Obviously, there is discovery. There's obviously a lot of legal things that go into that. I am by no means a lawyer or a specialist on that, and I'm aware that there are things. However, the thing that has come up in the past several years is the legal process is too slow, right? You can be sued for having, say, not fulfilling minimum orders. And obviously a lawsuit is just, hey, we're alleging this is happening. We need to go to, discover, we need to go through the process, right? You could be sued for one thing, such as I said, not fulfilling minimum order obligations. But then you can do 5 other things completely fair, because that lawsuit is still dragging on. That lawsuit is still going on. The process is too slow. There is no cease what you're doing. Cease your heresy. We're going to deal with this. And therefore, the systems really only apply to people that actually care and are affected, whereas people who don't care, don't have to care, and really aren't ultimately affected, the system doesn't work on them. I think that is a fair and reasonable take on the situation when it comes to celebrity status, notoriety status, versus being average John Doe, Jane Doe.
Excited. I thought for like the first time in my adult life, the Republicans and the Democrats agreed on something and it was actually going to help out normal, working, everyday Americans. And then I wake up and the news cycle hits and every mainstream media outlet and every economist on the planet apparently thinks that this is an awful idea, and they've got the dumbest fucking reasons I've ever heard of in my entire life, and we're going to get into those right after a word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Rocket Money. It is pretty much your one-stop shop for all your financial needs. It helps you establish a budget, it monitors your credit, and it even lets you track your net worth. But what what I use it most for is helping me track and cancel all my subscriptions, because I'm always trying to watch MMA fights. My wife's trying to watch Caitlin Clark in the Indiana Fever, and then we have to sign up for a different streaming service every other day because for some reason every MMA fight and every Caitlin Clark game is on a different streaming service for some reason. So you gotta sign up for the 7-day free trial, then you forget that you signed up for it, and then you're paying $10 a month for the next 10 years. In addition to that, all your other recurring bills like your cell phone bill, your internet provider, your cable, Rocket Money will actually help you negotiate lower prices for those bills as well. So if you want to give Rocket Money a try, you can check it out at rocketmoney.com/fatfiles. I'm gonna have that link and a discount code down below. Let's get back to the video. All right, the history.
I liked it. Ad read was consistent, same background, right? It wasn't like a hard jump cut, same outfit, same background. Audio quality was consistent. Audio quality was on par. Very quick ad read, very succinct, quick to the point. 9 out of 10. I don't know why I wouldn't say 10 out of 10. I think there's something in there, maybe a little more panache, maybe a little more, I don't even want to say personality, because there's a lot of personality in that. I liked it. It was good. It was minimalistic. It was consistent. 9 out of 10.
Of tipping. Tips have functionally only actually been taxed since like 2012. Buh! Actually, tips have always been considered taxable income. Buh! Yeah, I'm aware. That's why I use the word functionally in there, because yeah, they were technically taxable income since 1913 when the income tax was first established. However, they were never actually really taxed until about 2012. And that's because you...
Dude, I've had these people in my comments. I've had people try to argue stuff in super bad faith, and people who just completely miss the point. Like, I had somebody recently in a Warhammer 40k situation. They tried to piggyback off my argument. Well, imagine if in L5R you had all these Star Wars and Disney writers coming over to L5R, hoping your game gets big enough to be affected by that, and suddenly the Crane Clan aren't the best duelists, the Phoenix are, you know, and how negative that would be. To which my response is, you are clearly speaking from a position of authority. You clearly have some understanding of how the Crane Clan and the Scorpion Clan function, and the Crane Clan and the Phoenix Clan. So tell me in your dissertation why that would be a bad thing. Oh, I'm just piggybacking off your argument because you said this would be a bad thing. No. You're taking that entire segment and you're applying as if you have an authoritative stance on the subject. You're going to cite this, or I'm going to ignore you because this is dumb. To which, well, I don't want to argue this anymore. I'm already stressed. And to which my follow-up is, if I stress you out, if you don't agree with me, if you don't like me, why watch me? So I have these people consistently, on a Fat Electrician video earlier today, got a notification. Certified, it's too many dumb pauses. I just deleted the comment. Claim censorship if you want. I just don't care, dude. Like, you're watching a reaction. Go watch the actual Fat Electrician. You are the people we make fun of. 100%. To which, at this point, I like the way he handles it because he acknowledges it. And he does make fun of them. And ultimately, he just writes them off. At this point, I have had too many people argue in bad faith that I can 100% without a shadow of a doubt confirm that when people want to call me a woke communist centrist, when people want to say, well, Phoenix Clan being duelist would be a bad thing for L5R, despite having no understanding of the setting, right? People arguing in bad faith that, well, even though you've survived certain traumatic events, you are still less valid than a woman who survived that, a traumatic event of the same variety, right? And it's like, okay, you are the individual. You are the person we make fun of. It's this weird realization I've had to come to. And this, dear viewer, this is why you will see creators that maybe they start off strong or maybe they try to be personable, but enough stuff happens and you notice they become a little more closed off or they become a little more selective on who they interact with. All I'm saying, there's a commentary there.
Enforce it, right? Because at the end of the day, laws only matter if you can actually enforce them. And back in the 1900s, all the transactions were done in cash, and you had to rely on that waiter or waitress or whoever to report the amount of tips they got to the IRS, which nobody on the face of the earth is actually going to do.
So I actually do have a point on this. Had a buddy worked at he also worked at a financial institution, and somebody tried to claim that they were going for a loan, right? Like they were actually going through the loan application process, credit was getting pulled, etc. To which, hey, we need to report your earnings, right? We need to report your income, and it's I have $5,000 in tips. Okay, do you have anything to substantiate that? Well, it pretty much came down to, nah, just trust me, bro. I make $5,000 in tips a month, and it's like, okay, but where's the paper trail on that? I can claim to make $250,000 a year. Where's my proof on that, right? And then just, well, can you disprove it? You don't want to do that. You don't want to get into your defense being you can't disprove it. Because, dear chat member, you cannot... you cannot disprove that you're not subscribed to the Fat Electrician or the Fat Files. But what you see how this gets into layers of like just you don't want that. Okay, if anyone, okay, family, friend, significant other, etc., if they resort to you cannot disprove this, you're in for a wild ride. It's probably best to draw a line in the sand there and go, okay, you need to come back with at least some sort of evidence, some sort of supporting documentation, facts, etc., because you do not. I was watching John Oliver recently, and he literally covered it. I'm trying to censor myself because I can't say the words that he said on YouTube, but it's like. Dude, that is a path of no recovery if we start devolving into you cannot disprove something. Like, to try to tread around the topic as lightly as I can in regards to that, it's like saying something along the lines of, oh, well, I went to Mexico, okay? And you're like, well, you clearly went to Tijuana and you did some stuff, right? And it's like, well, no, that didn't happen. Well, you can't disprove that. Well, what do you mean? I didn't go there. Well, you don't have any photos. You could have gone anywhere. You can't disprove that to me. See how bad faith that is? How brain dead that is? You probably lost brain cells listening to me explain that.
But it's still illegal, so you have to. Holy shit, I do not understand how people don't understand this concept. Okay, let me break it down for you a little bit more, all right? I live in Iowa, for example, and if I'm sitting down at dinner and somebody says, hey, will you pass the butter, and I grab some margarine instead and pass that to them, that's illegal in the state of Iowa. It is a misdemeanor to pass off margarine as butter, okay? Guess who's enforcing that law? Fucking nobody. It's illegal in Arizona to put llamas in bathtubs. It's illegal in Delaware to whisper in church, okay? None of that shit is getting enforced. Nobody cares. This is one of those times.
There's something in Idaho, I think it's like you can't fish off the back of a giraffe. To which the conversation becomes like, how did that get enforced? I think those get enforced because they're part of bills. So like you have a bill, say, passing like, I don't know, an internet bill that gets signed into law, right? And it's dealing with internet things. But I think that's one of those things that kind of gets thrown in there. So like, it always fascinates me how there's just so many regulations and restrictions on this, and they're technically illegal, misdemeanors up to felonies, right? But like, 1, why? 2, how did this happen? 3, is that even repealable at this point? Because, I mean, that's a whole legal process to overturn that, right?
Ow! Christ, Jake, take it easy, man.
That would.
Ow, Jesus Christ. Ow. Jesus Christ.
Nice.
Ah, shit. Jesus Christ.
Now, that being said, the government absolutely does not want it to be one of those times. The government wants to tax tips really, really bad, and they've got a long track record to prove it. In 1965, the IRS really tried to crack down on this when they came out and basically said, like, hey, you're required to report all of your incomes. It's taxable income, and you need to pay us taxes on it. But 1965, everybody was still paying with mostly cash, so everybody continued to just not listen. So the IRS could do literally nothing about it. So, still wanting to get that tax money, in 1982, the IRS came out and then told the employers, hey, we're going to require you to track your employees' tips, and then you report that back to us, okay? Multiple problems with this again. You're asking the employer to side with the government over their own employees, so that's
my real only issue with the IRS, because as somebody that does YouTube and stuff, I'll pay my taxes. I don't care. I'll pay it, right? It's weird that you still have to do your homework and then submit it when they literally have it all on their side. If you want to talk about legislation, pass some legislation that they're the ones that have to send it. You have to sign off on it, and then it's the inverse, right? Rather than you submit it, they check your homework and sign off on it. They submit to you. These are what our records show. Is this correct in good faith? And obviously, if you're trying to argue in bad faith, I mean, obviously you can talk about legality there, right? Such as if it's like, oh well, I that's not what I spent this year when I clearly spent it, right? Like it's trackable, right? Like me buying my Sony camera this year, right? Like, yeah, if I in bad faith am found to in bad faith legitimately just lie, sure. But you cannot tell me they do not have every single transaction, and if it is business applicable or not, on their side, right? Like ammunition, right? Ammunition is not a business expense, right? You cannot write that off tax-wise as far as I'm aware and have been told by multiple people, which is fine, right? That's cool. However, say I were to talk about my H&K, not MP5, God, I wish, dude, this is so expensive, H&K USB 45, right? And I've clearly done a short on it over on Tacticip, right? Okay, well, that classifies as a business expense. You used it in your line of business. You used it in your line of work. Fat Electrician, you bought, whatever platform's on the table. Nice scope, by the way. You have used it in your work. Okay, tax write-off. Why does the burden fall on your average citizen? that feels backwards.
Probably not going to happen most of the time. And then even if that does happen, it's still 1982. Everybody's still paying with cash. And if the employer's trying to figure out how much money in tips the employees made, they're just going to lie anyways. So it's still completely ineffective. So the IRS is just getting more and more pissed off. They realize that they really have no way to track this, which means they have no way to enforce it, which means there's people out there just giving money to other people and the government's not getting a cut, which absolutely infuriates them. So in 2000, they basically resort to scare tactics. They launched the Tip Alternative Reporting Agreement, which is essentially an education program for employers and employees, letting them know how dangerous it is if they don't report their tips. Again, completely ineffective. So then they launch another program in 2002 known as the Employer Tip Reporting Compliance Agreement, which was basically the same thing all over again. And again, it is completely ineffective.
So are these ineffective at the same time approximately when the war on drugs was kind of a thing? Remember all the DARE ads and stuff like that? I feel like this is approximately somewhere in that time period, right? That's an interesting, like eagle eye, bird's eye view perspective on tactics used at that time. That's fascinating to me.
And in 2007, they get a truly diabolical idea when they come out with the Small Business Work Opportunity Act, which basically goes to the employers and says, hey, you need to start tracking all of your employees' tips. And the more tips you report of your employees, we're going to turn around and give you a tax credit so that you actually make money the more your employees report tips. Basically, they're taking the employer-employee relationship and pitting them against one another over who gets to make the money. Okay,
so hear me out, actually, and I'm just thinking about this. So obviously, I, as a neurospicy individual, have joked that I'm just a tax cut. Businesses want to hire me because I'm just a tax break for them. Oh, you hired this autistic kid. You hired this autistic person. Hey, tax break. You're our tax break, right? Can we revoke that? I wonder. Like, I don't know. I've been really spicy, really the past month or so, honestly, and I'm just starting to think of stuff like that, where it's like, I, as a neurospicy individual, could I opt out of a business like we want to hire you? It's like, well, you're not going to get a tax credit from me. The government may say this. However, I, as a neurospicy individual, do not consent to, information, whatever, XYZ, right? However you word that, right? And then the business doesn't get a tax break on that because they treat me like just anyone else, right? I wonder if that's a thing that you could do, right? That'd be interesting. I think the process would be way too complex, take way too much time, and ultimately probably just get shot down because, because then things like veterans would fall into that, right? Well, if you're a United States veteran, right, and, you get a tax break if we hire you, right? But then I think it could be used as a weapon on the other side of things because, well, you're a veteran, and if you choose to not allow us to get a tax break, we're just not going to hire you. We're going to treat you differently. We're going to force you to quit, right? So as much as I propose things, understand that I try to look from things as many angles as possible to try to get the most complete picture. Because you can pitch an idea all day. Is it substantial? Does it have weight? Does it have merit? Is it going to be able to do anything? Will it have the intended outcome, right? There are a number of factors. And you know what literally gave me this ability? Literally basic education. Like, I wasn't the best person in school, but goddamn, dude, like, some people make me look like I went to actual law school. Some people make me feel like I'm actually 300 IQ status. I'm not, okay? I'm fairly dumb. I am an idiot on the internet, right? Let's be real about that, okay? I'm not allowed in the kitchen for various reasons. But dude, I should never be the bar for success. Actual skill issue.
100% government playbook 101. Take two groups of poor people, get them to fight each other instead. They'll never realize that you're the one being the asshole. Okay, makes perfect sense. They do it all the time.
I say, let them fight each other. Or we lay back, watch, have a drink, play some wagers. Hey!
So this is where reporting on tips did start to go up quite a bit because some employers were in fact willing to sell out their employees. However, a lot of them still weren't willing to do that. So then in 2012, the IRS finally came out with the Attributed Tip Income Program, which is basically the IRS saying, hey, it's 2012, most people are paying with a debit or credit card, some electronic form of payment, which means that you now have a digital record of them receiving that money, and we're gonna legally require you as the employer to report that information to us.
Gotcha.
And this is where tips really functionally started to be taxed because even in modern times, if you tip with cash, they can just put that in their pocket and nobody really knows. But the vast majority of people tip on the receipt with their debit or credit card, and now there's an electronic paper trail and they have to end up reporting that to the IRS, and then they do have to pay taxes on it.
So So I do have it on good authority because I know people will just say, well, just go to your bank, your financial institution, and just deposit it in less than $10,000. So obviously there's, oh God, it's been so long. I actually wasn't branch side, so I actually never really got to deal with this. I had to deal with it in, by like tangentially. But if you deposit X amount, I think it's over $10,000 or more, you have to fill out a form, and it's like, it's so weird because the form is like, what is this money from? What is it being used for? Terrorism's a funny little box that can get checked on there, or at least comes into question. It's really weird. Someone will know exactly what form I'm talking about. But I also don't want to reveal too much information because financial institution, right? I'm not under NDA. I'm under federal regulation for a lot of things, so I try to be minimalistic in what I say. The way I understand that, though, that is, I'm going to use the word misnomer, but it's the incorrect word, but it gets my point across. Just because you deposit, say, $9,950 doesn't mean that you are exempt from certain scrutiny, certain analysis on cash deposits. Now, that could be different depending on the financial institution, could be probably even different depending on the state, right? Cash is definitely one of those things that is looked at in a very interesting light in modern day. And even then, on good authority, you cannot, actually I had to deal with this situation once, you cannot just say, I need to pick up $300,000 in cash. Sure, you might have $500,000 in your account. Absolutely. You should have every available method to pick that up. The issue becomes, and I think a lot of institutions will have this, they can only have so much cash on hand. So let's say they're only allowed to have $20,000 on hand. They have to make a special order. They have to worry about certain logistics. They have to worry about, if they're going to make it in time. So there's a lot of things that get into that. So even if you have the money, you have the cash, right? It depends on if they can get the cash in time for your purpose, and a number of logistical and safety concerns that go along with that. Now, what I appreciate about the situation that I dealt with was this individual made it non-negotiable. I need this in 2 or 3 days. Don't ask me where it can, what I'm using it for. Yeah, it's whatever, right? I don't care. I think it was, once again, hesitant to really say anything. It was for this individual's personal use. I think personal investment. Let's put it that way. Like, if you have the cash, why should I personally care? But then again, I was, I'm not big banker, right? I'm not big banker executive status. So these are things, I'm sure there's classes, I'm sure there's courses, education, policies that you have to watch about in those kinds of things. So this is all to say, come back to the point, cash in modern day is treated very, very weird. And it feels like credit and debit are incentivized, but even then, credit has now been de-incentivized. There's a number of things that you cannot use credit for. You cannot use a credit card to pay for another credit card, which makes sense. You have a constant debt cycle. You don't actually make progress on that. But even my internet provider just one day was just like, yeah, we're not taking your credit card anymore. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you just charge the 3% service fee. Well, we're not taking your credit card anymore because I was using it to get points, right? So even now, credit is starting to get kind of to that same point where it feels like it's getting regulated and limitations slapped on it arbitrarily. It's fascinating to watch how money evolves.
Thanks, Obama.
So
Thanks,
look, I'm not a tax expert. I'm not an economist. I'm an electrician that just likes to point out obvious shit. So I figured we've only functionally been taxing tips since like 2007 to 2012, however you want to look at it. I remember when I was a waiter in 2008 in high school, and my boss had to pull me aside and be like, hey, just so you know, our company's going to start reporting all the electronic tips to the IRS, so you're going to have to pay taxes on that on the end of the year. Just be aware, because I worked for a major chain restaurant, and they were willing to sell us down the river. So I just figured, like, we've only been taxing this thing for 10 years. In reality, what's it gonna hurt to just not tax these guys, right? Because if I end up ordering a pizza during a snowstorm and some 19-year-old kid in a clapped out Camry comes through, I want to be able to give him a $20 bill in cash as a thank you and not have the government be involved, right? I just want the authority and the agency in my life to be able to do nice things for random strangers and not have the government demand a cut. That's all I want. But apparently,
so here's the thing as well, and I'm sure he's aware of this point as well. If you tip over a certain amount, over a certain percentage, it can and will be declined, or someone else will get that tip, depending on the establishment. So what I'm saying is, let's say you go out to eat, right? Let's say you go out to insert random restaurant, Olive Garden, right? Fancy IHOP. You go out to Olive Garden, you're like, I really like our waiter here. He was really cool. He was really kind. Let's make this guy's night. And you tip him, say, $250 because you're just that kind person, right? Depending on the establishment, and I'm sure, Olive Garden has their own policies and procedures for this. This is going to differ between chain, franchise, individually owned, right? That kind of thing. That can either get declined outright. That can not go through, that can be split up between others, and depending on the kitchen, all tips can be split between kitchens. I know that was when I worked in the restaurant that I worked at, that was a huge point of contention between a lot of waiters and stuff, especially if it had to be split between the kitchen too. Like, sure, everyone wants more money, but at the same time, I'm back here making burger. No, why should I care? And each business functions differently, so you can't. This culminates in the point that even if you're a nice person, you can absolutely get railed. You can get reamed, and your act of kindness be thrown back in your face outside of your control and the recipient's control. That is wrong.
Apparently, I'm wrong because every single mainstream media outlet started putting out news articles and videos explaining in detail why this is a horrible fucking idea, and all of the economists agree. And then you actually read the articles or you watch the interviews with economists, and they have the dumbest fucking talking points on the planet, to the point that it's actually insulting to your intelligence. So the first argument is, if we don't tax tips, it's going to end up costing the government between $100 and $150 billion over the course of the next 10 years. So where are they going to recoup that money from, right? Because you have to go and get that money from somewhere else if we're not going to take it from the waiters and waitresses and delivery drivers.
So hear me out. Here's my hot take on this. I'm not actually opposed to taxes. Let me explain before the comment comes, right? I am for taxes when it actually does stuff. So hear me out. Let's give everyone in the Marine Corps a broadsword. Let's give everyone in the U.S. Army, let's give them a sword, right? Let's give all our military members swords. That's how fun happens, right? If we want to talk about, taxation, let's give the U.S. military jetpacks, right? Functional jetpacks, right? Now, when we start going to, and this happened in Idaho, I don't remember who it was, and I will try to have some sort of anonymity. When it is found that a local state government was misspending funds on fancy office equipment, you should be fired. Like, you should, no contest, be fired and shamed. I don't really care. Don't misspend funds, right? So when you have control of where they go, and I've been honest, I've said on stream a number of times where it's like, oh man, this rocket launcher exists, or wow, emus exist. Dude, I pay taxpayer money to have the Marine Corps be trained to ride emus. 100%. I mean, they literally won, I think it was what, 2 wars? 2 wars against Australia? I don't know. Seems pretty cool to me, Captain. And that's where the contention comes in. The contention comes in as all taxation is bad. Personally, I don't care. I understand you're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to my opinion. Let's be adults, right? My defense for it is if it actually goes to things and actually makes waves and actually does things, I'm fine. If it goes towards buying fancy office equipment for someone who I don't even know their name, we have a problem here.
Where do you get the revenue to offset that? Because it's also apparently going to advance the insolvency date of Social Security's retirement trust fund by over a year.
Now, at a glance, that almost sounds like a mildly coherent opinion if you don't think about it whatsoever. I mean,
yeah, that actually made my brain hurt.
It's so egregious that one of two things is happening. Either they're just blatantly lying and they know that you're dumb, or two, there's this like phenomenon that happens where you become so well educated that you've been detached from the rest of normal society outside of academia for so long that you no longer have any common sense. And I think that might actually be what's going on here.
Or hear me out. As somebody who went to school with real idiots, some of those kids should have been left behind. Okay? All I'm saying, if you cannot pass basic education, that is a problem. Okay? If you're talking about, well, how do we classify animals, right? Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. And somebody looks at you and goes, huh? Huh? I thought that was a mushroom. Oh my God, dude, please get out of here. Get out of here. If somebody is just like, why does this work? Well, I mean, insert chemistry thing here, right? Why does neon glow? And you're like, okay, well, neon, noble gas that has this properties here. 2-second Google search. This is why neon glows. This is what happens. And they just look at you and they have the lights are on, but nobody's home, right? We have a core problem. I was literally watching, I always forget the name of it. There's a neutron star I was watching about recently. And don't get me wrong, there are people who have way higher education ceilings, credentials behind their names that they get to actually like look at this thing, right? But it's also just like, it's cool to hear about. I have a basic enough understanding that you can literally pitch the idea of the inevitable heat death of the universe, and I'm like, okay, I can kind of understand that. I can understand what you're getting about. The universe reaches max entropy, heat is related to energy. You know, everything vibrates, right, from at a molecular atomic level, right? And that's actually what absolute zero is, right? 0 Kelvin, right? That is what that is there is no movement. There is nothing that moves anymore. Some people have probably tuned me out at that point, right? But like having a basic core education has allowed me to analyze and do so many things, and I should not be the bar for success. Once again, I don't have credentials behind my name. I'm not going to complain to be a scientist. I'm not going to complain to be a specialist. I'm not going to say that I'm, once again, in regards to the military thing, I'm not military. I'm just an idiot on the internet that feels like I have some takes, right? And I feel like I respect military, but I still get people that are just like, nah, you're stealing valor. Get out of here. Okay, sure. Basic education should, once again, be an actual standard that's upheld. Because historically, we've literally had educators, like educating kings, educating magistrates, nobles, etc. They were prized, were they not, because of their ability to teach and educate? Man, it's almost like there's historical precedent for education being a good thing, and why so many people and so many organizations try to make education not a thing. Wow, what a real head turner.
Now look, again, I can't stress this enough. Not a tax professional, not an economist, just a guy.
Yeah.
But hear me out. What if we just spent less fucking money? You know, like what if we bought and gave away a few less fucking missiles to other countries? Like, I feel like that's a good compromise.
No, I don't think I will.
I must refrain from comment because I will have very hot takes, and I don't want to have hot takes. They're not the hot takes that you're thinking they are, but I have been very opinionated in regards to in behind closed doors foreign policy. Let's put it that way. No, I'm not inviting that for discussion. I'm explaining that why I will not comment on this.
No? Okay, we'll just move right on to the next argument then.
There aren't a lot of tipped workers in America.
According to economist Ernie Tedeschi, tipped work accounts for just 2.5% of all employment.
Cool,
Does it, though? Does it factually? Do you have a source on that? See, this is the kind of man, if we were face-to-face, I would absolutely throw in his face, show me the sources. Are they accredited? Are they peer-reviewed? Do you have other citations? Is any one of these sources bogus? Because if any one of these sources is bogus, or you misrepresent the information, you have lost your platform. I will not listen to you. And that's fair. That's as it should be, right? Now, there's a thing for disinformation and misinformation as far as accidentally, right? Like if I were to say that, well, the universe will one day end in true finality because eventually everything will break down to the subatomic level, to elementary particles, and an infinity will be in between them, and thus a true finality, right? Except those that are science-minded know this is complete, horseshit, because that is the Big Rip theory, but that doesn't also accommodate for other theories, such as the Big Freeze. That doesn't accommodate for the inevitable heat death of the universe. That doesn't accommodate for if we are hypothetically an oscillatory universe, right? A universe that expands into infinity and then contracts back into a singularity to then spark a new Big Bang and rinse repeat, because we could be living in a universe that recycles itself over and over and over and over and over again. We have a fundamental lack of understanding on both dark matter and dark energy, which are technically different, right? But that being said, right, like if I were to say that say like, yeah, the true finality thing, right, and I were to have things wrong, you're allowed to have things wrong. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to be like, oh, hey, my bad. I learned from this, right? If it's done maliciously, that becomes an issue, right? So if I were to say something along the lines of, well, Fat Electrician doesn't like the Marine Corps, and it's clearly, I don't know what his stance is, right? We're using it as an example because he's the subject matter, right? Like, if I were to say that, with no bearing, no sources, no citation, no understanding or education on the subject, yeah, I'm doing that maliciously, am I not? You see how that's just a fundamentally different conclusion than our Big Rip and inevitable heat death of the universe example, where that is like, cool, we're talking about this, the thing, right? Or if I try to pitch, oh God, insert chemistry example here, right? Like boron has the atomic number of 5. Excuse you? Actually, I've pulled up a table. I don't know what it is. If it's easily checked, like literally 2 seconds. Okay, let's do it, right? Let's Google this right now. That way you can, I can in practice show this. Periodic table. Many of you are going to know what this is, right? Many of you are going to know what this is. Maybe not understand everything about it. A lot of it was leaked out in my brain about this. Chemistry was an interesting time in my life. But periodic table, boron, right? Trying to find a chemical element. Wow, unironically, it has the number 5. That I honestly just pulled that out of nowhere. But you see how we can resolve this, how we don't have to have misinformation and disinformation if we have the least bit of critical thinking, that cognizance, make cognizance hot again, okay? Right? Like, we are way too comfortable with stupid people just being stupid. And I'm at the point I'm not being nice anymore. Couple friends have really been like, damn, you are not being nice at this point. Like, do better. Skill issue. Hashtag get good.
Understand that most people aren't paid in tips, okay? I'm not rooting for this plan because I think it's going to change the world on a grand scale. I'm rooting for the plan because I should be allowed to give the fucking delivery driver $10 without the government stepping in like the mafia and demanding their fucking cut.
It's been 24
You want to talk about freedom? That's your freedom argument.
hours. Got my money?
Yeah, I don't have it, sorry.
Well, all right then. That's good, OJ.
Nice.
And then the next thing they go on to say with this argument as well, it could be really hard on businesses like restaurants because now the restaurant owner has to deal with the fact that some of his employees just got a tax cut and the people in the kitchen didn't get a tax cut, meaning the waiters effectively just got a raise and the cooking staff didn't, and then people might get mad and quit and it could end up ending their entire business.
So that was actually what was pitched to me when I worked in a restaurant. And hindsight definitely is 2020 in the situation where why do I care? And it was pitched to me like, oh, well, they make money and stuff like that. At the time, I made $7.25. I made 10. I think I made 10. Because they got tips, they made $3.25. Because in Idaho specifically at the time, tipping, if you were tipped, you were paid a lower standard, like actual like static rate, because the tips were supposed to make up for that. And like, I don't know, dude. Seems pretty dumb. Also, many line cooks, chefs, etc. Will probably just be like, yeah, who cares? No, I'm here. I do job. I make food. I don't know. I will pull the I used to be a line cook card. I'll pull the I used to be an expo card and say, why should I care? Besides, we in the kitchen get to have a lot more fun anyways because people can't directly see us, okay? The amount of people doing the wiggle worm and grinding on each other, oh, man. That was different. But they can't see us because it's not in the doorway. But the one time one of the waiters did it, he was definitely in the doorway, and people saw him, and it was really funny.
And this is the part where they're actually insulting your intelligence, right? I mean, you expect me to honestly believe that an entrepreneur that's smart enough to run a fucking business is going to have the government approach them and be like, hey, I'm going to take less money from your business. And the entrepreneur is just like, fuck, this is going to put me under. Having more money is just fucking, I can't do it. It's not manageable.
I haven't cried like that since Titanic.
Okay, look, controversial opinion. I'm so hardcore capitalist that I wholeheartedly believe that if your business goes under because the government steps in and says, hey, I'm gonna quit fucking over some of your employees. Literally, I'm gonna add more money to what your employees are receiving on a daily basis, and that's what fucking puts you out of business. I don't care because you suck at being an entrepreneur and you deserve to go out of business at that point. I encourage the competition because I know there's other people out there that if the government stepped in and said, hey, I'm gonna take less money, they'd fucking figure it out. And the best part about this, that's not even the most offensive argument, okay? This is the most offensive argument.
So for example, if you took a delivery worker who delivered food, they probably get tips. And so they would qualify for this tax benefit. If you took a delivery worker who delivered packages, they usually don't. So they wouldn't get a tax benefit. I can't think of a good reason why you would want to give a tax break to the person who delivers food, but not to the person who delivers mail.
All right, let's get a thread down there. Let's get a thread in the comments section. How well paid are postal delivery individuals, package deliverers, whether you work for a big corpo or not, mail service, etc. How well paid are you in comparison to somebody that say works Uber or DoorDash or works for, insert delivery service or restaurant here, right? I'm pretty sure that the mail services are getting a lot better pay. Consistently across the board. It may not be as much as you want. I will concede you that, right? That is probably the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And how does she have a job? How does she have a platform? Once like it just you think of it. Here's the thing, right? USPS, United States Postal Service. I have on very, very good authority because they are federal. They have absolutely banger benefits, like benefits. Right. But then I think that comes into short staffing. Once again, on authority, I have understanding that you guys are incredibly short staffed. And I feel for you, especially going into holiday seasons. I feel for you. Please rest, drink, take relaxation, take your breaks and lunches, please. Like take care of yourself. It's going to be rough, especially when you're short staffed. This is such a bad faith argument that I would call her platform and her actual ability to hold her position into question. Like, no, I don't tolerate that. If you are quite literally, you can have hot takes, right? My hot take earlier about, hey, yeah, I'm fine with taxes. Just give everyone the Marine Corps a broadsword, right? Sure, okay, you can call that a bad take. You want to talk about bad takes? That is such a bad faith take that, wow. I love that he's put it in this video because that is bad. And that is a really good example of, yeah, you think it's bad. Here's how bad it is, okay? To support his points. Good God.
Okay, to compare a pizza delivery driver to a fucking UPS driver is absolutely fucking insane, okay? Yes. It doesn't make any sense. It's on par with being like, well, you know, we don't want to give CNAs a tax cut because then we're not going to give doctors a tax cut, and they're basically the same job. They both just walk around the fucking hospital wearing pajamas, right? No, one of them is paid significantly more than the other for performing more complex fucking tasks, okay? A UPS driver on average makes $27 an hour with wages going as high as $43 an hour on top of 18 paid holidays and sick days, 7 weeks of vacation, and industry-leading fucking healthcare. The pizza...
So my criticism here, and I'm guilty of this as well, is the fact that we're using AI overview. That is not a jab necessarily at the Fat Electrician, but Google has definitely been found to be wrong. Google AI overview. Someone sent me, you'll know exactly who you are. They sent me a Google AI overview. I'm trying to find it because I have it in Discord. I'm trying not to actually dox anybody in this. There was a thing that they sent, and it was like, did Elon Musk gank himself, right? And said something. Google said something along the lines of, yes, he did it for some reason, which is factually untrue. Like, you can actually like search up, is Elon Musk still alive? And he's clearly still alive. Yeah. So Google AI, something that I have been showcased, been shown to with evidence in good faith that it can lie. It can be incorrect. It can get details wrong. So my criticism here, here it is. Did Elon Musk gank himself? To AI overview, yes, he ganked himself because of how bad he effed up Tesla and Twitter, to which dude is still clearly alive, right? Yeah, that's one of those things I look at and I'm just like, no, this is I do have reservations. That is one thing that if we are to do a proper research piece, if I were to do a proper research piece, if I were to do anything in terms of citation, I would be, you would use it the same way as I use Wikipedia, right? A landing platform, a bouncing pad, right? If I'm researching U.S. Marine Corps, right, and I go to Wikipedia, U.S. Marine Corps, I'll find, what sources they are pulling from when I actually make an actual thing, right? Concept overview, Wikipedia. Concept overview, potentially in good or bad faith, up in the air in terms of a coin flip. Google AI, actually wanting to research something, such as Mickey Mouse free use copyright, right? Cool. Literally look at like a .edu or like a law firm page, like discussing in detail in paragraphs, like, why it is 1.0 Steamboat Willie and not like modern Mickey Mouse, right? Like certain iterations of it. One of these holds substantially more weight. For the arguments of this is acceptable, obviously, as this is kind of an off the hand. This would, I could argue, be a common knowledge thing. But if we are going to, do something in regards to statistics, if we're going into graphs, if we're going into supporting evidence that requires some sort of hard evidence, I don't think Google AI Overview is the correct option here.
Delivery guys making $7 to $13 an hour with no fucking benefits whatsoever. If no tax on tips goes into effect, there's zero fucking UPS drivers that are gonna quit their job and go work for Pizza Hut. Also, I lied. That was actually the second most offensive argument. The most offensive argument is this.
Let's say I'm a salesperson that gets a commission, or let's say that I'm somebody on Wall Street that gets a year-end bonus. So I reclassify my commission as a tip, or I reclassify my year-end bonus as a tip. The employer
then you just throw that out because you're clearly arguing that in bad faith, right? Like, oh, well, this is a tip, except it's not. Does it fall? Is it the legal definition of a tip? I don't know. I also have like negative respect for people on Wall Street. I don't know. That's a hot take for me. I just don't have respect for it. My respect goes to, men and women who serve in the military, individuals who serve, in hard labor jobs, individuals that, keep society running because they run sanitation services, because they run the Starbucks down the road, right? You want to complain about, well, you're this blue-haired female Starbucks employee. But I mean, it's like, okay, you still go to Starbucks. You still function off of people providing services like insurance brokers, like bankers, like people who go to fertilizer plants, right? Like I used to work at, right? Who still work off that. So get off your high horse. A job is a job, especially if you're at floor level. I do hold management to different levels, especially because I have been in management positions, and I stress myself out over management positions because I actually try at my job, right? Goes back to whole, if you have to lay off, you're an awful manager and should actually feel bad. And I was going to go say law, strength, and proper paper yourself, but that's probably a little too far. And I am wording it in that way. There's this... Don't worry, just L5R things. If you played Emperor, you're laughing right now. Oh my god. Law, strength, and proper papers. You don't have the actual document. Get good. Such a niche reference.
Helps out because they'll get a benefit, and so everybody wins.
Okay, this is blatantly taking advantage of the fact that most Americans don't really understand how taxes and income works, and they don't really know how to read their W-2, okay? You can't just go to your fucking employer and be like, hey, Jim, I thought about this. I'd rather my salary get converted from normal income to tips.
Okay, so I want to expand on my point because I literally had the same individual message back. This is what Google AI Overview, according to the USDA, says it is safe to cook chicken at. It does say approximately 102 degrees Fahrenheit to 38.8 degrees Celsius, which you will know that is complete and utter garbage because what is it? I need to find well done. What temp is well done? Because with chicken specifically, you have to worry about parasites and stuff, right? Well, all meat. Well done, 160 to 165. Google AI Overview. Now, you can make the argument that if chicken is prepared for in the correct manner, if it is done in a specific way, sure, you can get along with that. I've had people try to order medium rare chicken, to which our chef looked at the request, said, that's not happening. They're getting well done, and then we didn't have the conversation again, right? You can technically do this. I would not trust a single establishment. I was going to say just in the U.S., I would not trust a single establishment in the world to do this. This is something that I would have to put time and research into in order to do anything under well done for chicken. So this can be seen as malicious and harmful. See my argument on malicious and harmful and misinformation, right? I don't know why we get into you can ask Goku for help. He'll ensure the meat has reached temperature by reading the power level. This is clearly a shitpost. So to which we're going to argue, Kip, this is fake. It's a fake Google AI. I can tell you without doxing the individual, and I appreciate you for sending me this. This individual is clearly intelligent. They do their research, and this is entirely in good faith. And I would be willing to put my entire brand behind that. I would actually be willing to put my seal of approval that this person is actually, doing the correct thing and providing an actual snippet of information, right? So take that as you will. Google AI can absolutely be misleading, can be harmful. Use this as a learning experience, right? Not calling anyone out, not calling anyone, well, this is bad faith, right? Just this is the danger we can get into. This is the territory we are entering. And you need to be careful. You, yes, can take Google AI Overview at face value, but someone could entirely make a chicken at 102 degrees Fahrenheit and they get sick off of it or worse. So there, in real time, a 2-second Google search. Well, 2-second Google search assisted by someone who has a reputation behind them. Let's put it that way.
That's not how any of that fucking works. And if you don't believe me, go to your boss tomorrow and be like, hey boss, I've thought about this a lot and I would really appreciate it if on my W-2 you changed all the wages I've earned and told the IRS that those were capital gains because capital gains are taxed far less than normal wages. You wanna know what your boss is gonna tell you? No, because that's fucking tax fraud. You wanna know why? Because the IRS has very clear definitions of what earned wages are and what capital gains are. They also have a very clear definition of what a tip is. From the IRS, tips are discretionary, optional, or extra payments determined by the customer that employees receive from customers. So
issuing you as a Wall Street, as if you're this big shot on Wall Street, if you're Wolf of Wall Street status, and you go, this is my year-end bonus, this counts as a tip, grats. You're going to have to talk to the IRS. The IRS wants to know your location. They're trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. They're going to want to talk to you about that, right? Why have we made fraud so glorified? I'm literally still upset over the Chase Bank thing, where TikTok was just like, yeah, well, if you deposit a check for $40,000, you can withdraw it right away, and it's this infinite money glitch. No, you dumb. Words I want to say that I can't say on YouTube. No, you absolute just dummy. That's literal check fraud. We have rules and regulations against that. That's not how that works. You just want to shake people. Just like Pokemon double slap them. Like, no, that's not how that works. Once again, Common Core education. Jesus Christ.
Person receiving a commission, not a fucking tip. So a CEO getting a bonus at the end of the year, not a fucking tip. Like the one time the government is actually trying to give a tax cut to lower income working people, they come out swinging with the lies of, well, this tax cut's actually only gonna affect the rich because the rich will just fucking magically turn all their income into tips, is fucking nonsense.
That's when you report people for tax fraud, right? So here's right. Doesn't the IRS have an actual like report thing? I know state IRSs do. That's what Mudahar, some Wonder Gamers, did against the completionist during the whole charity incident, right? Which may or may not be in court at this point in time. So that's interesting to think about. However, that is something that apparently you can report. So, for example, if you are in private conversation or you hear, say, someone local state office, right, who says, yeah, no, I just report all my earnings as tips. Hey, Mr. IRS, I heard this from this individual. This allegedly came from their mouth, right? You use specific wording. You should probably investigate them. And then they get audited. And then their hair actually turns white as they have to deal with an IRS audit. Don't get me wrong, I don't wish an IRS audit on anybody, right? If I, as a dingus on the internet, have to play by the rules, if Fat Electrician, as Fat Electrician on the internet, has to play by the rules, if a lot of us play by the rules, we need to force others to play by the rules. This is not political. It's common sense. Yes, no system will be perfect, right? 100%. However, in no system being perfect, you want to make sure the most amount of people are following the system. Oregon has a thing, this actually came to my attention recently. Oregon has a thing where you can get WIC food stamps, etc., right? But people want to take the WIC and food stamps, and they'll buy bottled water, and they'll empty the bottles of water, and then I think they sell them to some sort of recycling facility or program to get cash. So they're effectively, for a fee, converting WIC and food stamps into bottled water, emptying out the bottled water to sell the bottles to make cash to buy fentanyl. Is that everybody? No, absolutely not. And you know what happens? Right? Because I asked, well, what happens when people want to abuse the system and just buy fentanyl, right? Wow. It's almost like their WIC and food stamps can be revoked if it's found out that they're doing that. Oh my God, what a novel concept. You're abusing the system and you have your ability to access and use the system taken away on understanding and being proven that you are abusing the system. Wow, what a novel concept.
I'm calm. Now, to be completely fair and intellectually honest, there was one good argument that these economists managed to come up with, and that was that if you don't tax tips, you kind of end up incentivizing it in a way, and you're going to help prop up tipping culture even more than it already is. And a lot of people don't like tipping culture in America and wish it would just go away. Which, you know what, to be fair, actually a great argument, right? Because we all feel that way, especially recently, because now they fucking whip the iPad around when you're like picking up your own pizza. It's not being delivered. They still want a 20% tip. Get the fuck out of here, right? Don't get me.
I do agree with this. And this comes back to my core argument of if you are a business owner, you should be paying somebody. You should just be paying your employees. You should not, so you go pick up a tip. If you have pizza delivered to you, absolutely, okay, hey, you went out of your way, you did provide me a service, right? If I go in and I'm, minimal service, right? Just, hey, here's your water. Hey, here's your pizza. Grats. Sure, you are allowed to be like, no, I'm not doing this, right? And obviously that comes down to the integrity of the customer. That comes down to if they're generous or not, right? But let's say you phone call an order in, and you go to the pizza place, and you pick up the pizza. Why is the tip applicable at that point? To which it becomes, well, we're not getting paid enough. You are correct. You have literally proven my argument. Employers need to play their employees better. Thank you. Thank you for coming to my Kip Talk.
Wrong. I don't mind tipping. I'll tip the waiter, the waitress, the delivery driver. I'll tip my tattoo artist. I'll tip my hairstylist. I mean, my wife does my hair, so her tip's a little bit different. But the point remains, okay? I don't mind giving out tips when you're actually doing something. But at the same time, it is a weird cultural norm that seemingly only America has in modern times, and it is kind of dumb. And if we got rid of it, it wouldn't hurt my feelings one bit. However, the notion that the government should step in and tax it to decentivize tips is also complete fucking nonsense. Because guess what? If you actually do want to get rid of tips, one way to guarantee that you never ever achieve your goal is to allow the government to keep taxing them, making $150 billion, because then they're never going to get rid of it because they're making all the money off of it.
That's not fair.
You're learning. Uh-oh. Capital gains tax.
Amazing.
Okay, this is gonna be a tough pill to swallow. You might not like this opinion, but guess what? If you don't like tipping, don't tip. It's 100% voluntary. You don't have to do it, okay?
Subjectively correct. There are mandated gratuity. There are certain institutions, there are certain restaurants, there are certain chains, franchises, etc., that do have mandated gratuity. They have mandated tipping. That being said, how you combat that would just be to vote with your dollar, to not go to them. Sure, that place will probably succeed, especially if they are at a specific level of profitability, right? However, that is definitely one of those things where if you go to a place and you're like, well, why should I tip for picking up this pizza? But they have automatic mandated gratuity. Maybe just go somewhere else. Maybe make your own pizza. Maybe try out a new pizza place from a mom and pop shop they haven't seen before, right? Like, yeah, the 100% behind this logic. I can get behind that logic with the understanding that it is subjectively correct and it should be seen as optional on good service. And I get it. I get having a bad night. I get when you're just like, God, I don't want to be at work, right? And maybe your service slips a little bit, right? I get that. But what this will offer, what this will lead to is an increase in apathetic tip staff, right? People who are paid in tips, lead to people who are apathetic, who can do just what they need to do, and who don't want to go above and beyond because they know that they'll just get the tips. That being said, as somebody who used to work on tips, yeah, I get it. I understand. But I'm also in the camp of I've literally watched those people succeed and get preferential treatment, where who works my butt off and has lifted 300-pound trash cans by myself against company policy, from what I understand, against OSHA, but still required to do it because nobody's going to help you. We can't spare the people. Yeah. I as an individual and many others, I'm pretty sure, are going to be like, yeah, no, my coworker, we both have the same job, but they do way less than I do, and they still roll in the tips. You want to talk about incentivization? You want to talk about, incentive. You want to talk about quality of workers, right? Like, it starts leading into an argument. And this is definitely a macro issue. This is something that there's going to be people from all sides who are going to be like, well, tip culture good, tip culture bad, right? You're talking down to people who make tips. I would 100% disagree. I think that people who work for tips are definitely in a rough position. I think that their employers should absolutely pay them. And, I still respect them. I will tip. If I feel like I'm picking up my own pizza and I have to ask why, yeah, no, that's I'm not going to, because I don't see a reason to. If I have to put in most of the effort to go to a sandwich shop and the sandwich shop still asks if I would like to tip the team making my sandwich, probably not going to. However, if they make an order on short notice, if they're really friendly, sure, maybe I'll tip, right? And that's taking the power back as the consumer, throwing it in the face of poor management, and actually making change.
And guess what? If you get enough people that quit tipping, it'll just go the fuck away and the problem is solved, okay? That's the answer. The answer is not, I don't like tipping, therefore I'm gonna root for taxes, okay? That's completely fucking absurd. Oh, but maybe if the government taxes me more, I'll finally get free healthcare, or public schools will be better. No, the government's never gonna fucking make public schools better or give you free healthcare, okay? They're gonna take your money, they're gonna buy missiles, and they're gonna shoot them at poor people in countries that you don't know how to spell. Okay, don't get this twisted. I don't like that. I'm not rooting for it. I think it sucks. However, my point point is, if you're advocating that the government should tax tips so that they can divert like a third of that money over to healthcare or education or whatever you think is important, hear me out. What if you just did that? What if you took all of the money that you were going to tip that person and you donated it to the local school instead? You could solve the problem way better than the government ever can. Quit letting the government and the news gaslight you into rooting for fucking taxes. And apparently in this instance, it's not even the government. Literally, the Republican candidate and the Democratic candidate are on the same page, and it's just the news trying to gaslight you into taxes, which makes no sense to me. Anyways, I gotta go before I give myself a heart attack. Sorry this was so unhinged, but thank you for watching. Quack bang, out.
I quadrupled this
Seriously,
video.
am I the only person that feels this way? Because reading the news headlines in the comment sections kind of makes me feel like I am.
Yeah. I mean, so that's the thing. Like, you can look at this and you go, oh, Kip, well, you disagree with him. It's professional disagreement. I do agree with him. I do agree with him subjectively, right? I agree with him that, yeah, if you have if your tax dollars are going to dumb things, why should I care, right? Like, let's not send missiles over to foreign affairs, and let's give everyone in the Marine Corps a broadsword. Okay, let's do some fun stuff. Let's have the F-35 put on public shows, right? You know, have a bunch of balloons. You know, do it in a safe manner. You know, cool. Grats. You want to have civilian entertainment from the military? Yeah, just get some F-35 shooting down some balloons and stuff, right? Think that'd be a lot better than certain things. And even I don't know. There's we start touching into very, very harsh territory. And there are certain things that I will discuss. There are certain things that I will not discuss. And that being said, if you bring up certain things in the comments, can't really stop you. I mean, if it's actually that dumb, I'll just delete it and ignore it. But I mean, that's a certain level of just dumb and or beaten into the ground or bad faith argument. Then it's just like, nah, like it's not worth it. It's not worth the time on that. So it's professional disagreement. I am with him for the most part, I would argue. But I will also say that if, you know, I can see a tangential benefit or thing that actually functions, like, sure, I don't mind. Like, I just expect to pay the IRS at the end of the year anyways. It's whatever to me. Like, I don't have cares. Like, last year I spent a few thousand and I just sent to the IRS. Grats. That is just me doing the business that I am doing. That being said, it gets a lot harder if you are a single parent. If you're married, you have a couple kids, right? And income has to get stretched way further, right? I'm in a situation that is rather fortunate where many people are not. And so, completely leveling with you, right? There are points where as adults we can agree to disagree, right? And we can have our own biases, we can have our own educated opinions. And I say educated because it's the uneducated opinions that have consistently pissed me off. But this has been Unhinged. This has been an unhinged hour with Kip. I'm going to try to start uploading closer to the upload date. I have been giving 4 days. At this point, I will probably be going down to 2 days to compete with other React channels because yeah, trying it out. We're gonna see where it goes. Thank you everyone for watching. It's been a wild hour for you, and I'll see you in the next one.